Hello and welcome everybody to Game 4 of Grubby vs. LiquidTLO. This is going to be a PvT on MLG Metalopolis. Now, as I said, this is Game 4. We have just finished casting the first 3 games. TLO is currently up 2-1 against Grubby. Grubby took Game 1, but TLO was able to take the past 2 wins with some excellent usage of them ghosts, some very nice EMPs all around, and it was able to just disintegrate all the forces of Grubby under all those wonderful EMPs from TLO. So now going into Game 4, I'm expecting an amazing game from these 2 players. Both players, I will be interested to see whether they're going to be going for similar styles. As I said, this is did I even say that? I don't even know if I said yet in this cast that this is a best of 7. I'm casting the entire series of these games, so I'm starting to forget what I already said and what I haven't said yet. But in this series, these players have already played 3 games against each other. They're starting to get familiar with each other's styles. In these tournament games, it's very common that players can start to psych themselves out, just because after a little while, you know, you play against the same person enough times, then you start to think, oh, are they just going to keep going with their same builds? Are they going to go for something different? And you can start to work yourself into a mindset of complete confusion and just not knowing what your opponent's going to do. And so I'll actually be interested to see how both of these players are going to be adjusting their playstyle, and specifically whether Grubby is going to be adjusting his playstyle based on what he's seen the past 2 games from TLO, where TLO has been using very, very nice EMPs. So will Grubby be doing changing up his playstyle, getting away from that gateway mix of units to try to combat those EMPs, or whether he's just going to maybe try to go for some early aggression here, try to do some early damage before those ghosts can get out. Grubby right now moving across the map, sending a scout first to the close position, and he is going to be scouting TLO here shortly. I don't think TLO has managed to scout at all. No, TLO is just now sending out that scout SCV, going to be checking out, trying to find the location of Grubby, scouting for any kind of early pressure. This late of a scout is pretty common in this matchup. One of the mistakes beginners will make is they will do that really, really early scout, you know, sometimes as early as even before 9 food or something like that. But in the PvT matchup, there isn't really a whole lot your opponent can do. As you can see, Grubby didn't scout till about the 15 food mark, and you can see that we're only at about the 3-minute mark right now. And what does TLO have? TLO has 1 Marine. It's possible to get a little bit up, it's possible to get up these Marines faster than that, but you need to cut a lot of SCVs and get really, really early barracks to do it. So it's pretty common in this matchup to go for a little bit later of a scout, just because there isn't really all that much your opponent can be doing this early on. You don't have to be worried about Zerg 6-pooling you and getting those lings into your base really, really quick, and just not a lot of early pressure that usually comes from this build, or from these races rather. So Grubby has now thrown down 1 gateway, threw down his cybernetics core, started to get that warp gate, and is now chrono boosting out that stalker while he throws down his nexus. Now this stalker is something that Grubby has done at the beginning of every single game, and every single game I've mentioned it because it is so important. It is so important that he gets out this early fast stalker, because this stalker is going to be able to come to the front of TLO's base, is going to be able to poke around, see what he's doing. As I said in my previous cast, those stalkers are very fast units, can run away from those Marines as long as they don't have that stim, and they can get a lot of very good scouting information, and sometimes you can even actually get a lot of good harassment damage. Against newer players, a lot of times with very good control, you can actually deal a lot of damage with those stalkers. A Reaper is now in the base of Grubby, but it looks like it is going to be fended off here by these probes. The stalker now pulling back to come deal with this Reaper, and was any workers lost? Yes, TLO actually did get 3 worker kills with that Reaper, so a nice little trade there for TLO. Those Reapers, if you check out that barracks, they do cost 50 minerals and 50 gas, so 3 workers killed. That's about 150 workers killed, as well as lost mining time. So that is a very good trade there for TLO, and TLO has got to be feeling pretty good about himself there for that little trade. Second barracks now coming up, again going for that tech lab style of play. This means that we're probably going to see a lot more heavy Marauder usage from TLO. I am absolutely loving that play. These Marauders have been doing fantastic against Grubby's gateway composition this entire game. So I'm actually not surprised at all that TLO is going to be going for that Marauder heavy mix again. Grubby for now is now sitting on 3 warp gates, has not gotten up that fast robotics bay that we have seen from him in previous games. In previous games we saw Grubby go for a very early robotics base so that he could get out a very, very early observer and scout his opponent so that he can know exactly what his opponent is doing. At this point in time, there is a probe moving across the map, most likely going to be placing a pylon. In all of Grubby's previous games, I've been seeing Grubby placing a lot of forward pylons, not in terribly obvious positions. He's been placing them a little bit farther back, places like this, where his opponent isn't likely to scout them. It's very common to see pylons go up either in the gold expansion, I was about to say, right in that little corner where Grubby just placed it. Sometimes it is common to see players also place their pylon up on this high ground, but these are spots that are commonly scouted. These are areas that that most players know to check for pylons. So Grubby has been placing his pylons, interestingly enough, in interesting locations such as back here, this type of area, so that he could try to keep a pylon hidden for as long as he can, and maybe in the late game use it for some Dark Templar warp-ins. Grubby now moving in though with that forward pylon. He's now moving in on his opponent. 2 bunkers are now up. TLO pulling his SCVs off the line there just a little bit, getting ready to repair just in case Grubby decides to commit to this attack. So it looks like Grubby is going to be trying to do some early damage here, trying to do a lot of damage here before his opponent can get up those ghosts. We do see that another barracks is now going down for TLO. Ghost Academy is up though, and 1 ghost is on the way, so Grubby's going to have to be very careful about when he chooses to push in there. In Grubby's base, we do now see that robotics facility coming up. Wouldn't be surprised to see that observer coming out first thing as soon as that robotics facility is done. And it looks like Grubby has decided that that 2 bunkers is a little bit more than he wants to be able to deal with right now, and he's going to be pulling back to his base. TLO playing very, very, very safe, actually, throwing up another bunker. Has he used any scans yet in his opponent's base? No, it doesn't look like it. Looks like he hasn't seen anything since the early game where he saw those warp gates going down. Does not yet know that this robotics facility is going down. And Grubby, very good play here by Grubby. Excellent thinking. Scouts at the front, see that his opponent is going for a very, very defensive style of play, and actually TLO just salvaging that bunker right away. Decided not going to go immediately for a lot of defense, actually salvaging all his bunkers there. Looks like he's going to actually be preparing to move out. This could be devastating for Grubby. Grubby scouted all those defenses at the front and said, you know what, he's just going to be sitting back and teching up a little bit. So in the meantime, I'm now going to be moving out and expanding. I'm just going to be expanding with my back and getting my economy up and running. And you know what, TLO, seeing that attack pull back, he might even be assuming that this gateway, or that this nexus is going to be coming up, and is now pushing out to go check this third. Being very smart here, sending 1 Marauder off to check and indeed finding that pylon in that common location that I was talking about. Grubby having a forward observer here, but he does not see that these forces are coming in now for TLO, and TLO is going to be able to take out this nexus. I don't think that this thing is going to be able to stay up very long. EMP goes down on the nexus, meaning that TLO is going to be able to take it down even faster. Grubby not even going to try to save that nexus, just cancels the nexus, and is now just going to be macroing up some more forces. Now that he knows that there is this aggression, he sees all these Marauders now moving across the field, rallied to right here in front of his base. But it looks like TLO, now having taken down that expansion, is just going to be pulling back. It looks like he does not want to try to push in and commit to too big of an attack right now. And looks like he feels like his damage was done. He delayed that expansion. His command center is now coming up, and he's instead going to be using these forces to secure this third base. Not a bad little trade there for TLO. TLO, interestingly enough, keeping 1 Marauder behind, preventing his opponent from expanding for even longer, but the forces of Grubby here are going to be able to shoo that Marauder away. Tried to run away as fast as it could, but no, exploded in a tiny little pool of blood and armor. Now back in the main base of TLO, looks like TLO is still going for a very, very heavy Marauder count here. The Marauder count is getting ridiculously high, currently sitting on, it looks like 12 Marauders. Got more barracks down right now, 2 with barracks, 2 with Tech Lab, so it looks like he's going to be going for a heavy, little bit more heavy marine style. In previous games we saw a lot more barracks with Tech Labs up in that early game for TLO, but it looks like TLO is feeling like he can go a little bit lighter on the Marauders this time and just start to get up a lot of Marines. 2 medevacs are now out on the field, and it looks like we might be seeing some drop play here from TLO. He does have a lot of ground forces here at the front. He's got his starport with a reactor now up, double producing those medevacs. Has a factory that he has not been using at all. In previous games, we saw those factories, that factory being used to get that early Hellion, to get a lot of good scouting and a lot of early map control, but I would say right now the map control is mostly favoring Grubby. Grubby's controlling this Xel'Naga tower here with this one Zealot, is keeping his forces now moving across the map right now, and looks like TLO is content to sit back with a little bit more defensive position where he's not going for quite as much map control. Going to be throwing down his 3rd expansion right now, bringing his entire base up, or entire force out here to scout it. The Zealot does move into the base and does see this expansion going down, a missile turret going down here to make sure that there are no air units that are going to be coming across here to be sure no observers get into this base. Actually kind of going for a lot of... oh, I thought that this was a missile turret, but no, I am incorrect. TLO is actually throwing down a sensor tower. Now this is a play that I actually like quite a bit. We do not see enough sensor towers go down in Terran style of play. Those sensor towers do not cost very much. They cost 125, 100, but they give you a lot of map control. Can you see the area that this is getting? It's almost like throwing up your own Xel'Naga watchtower wherever you like. It doesn't give you full vision on the map. See, as you can see, there are still areas where the Fog of War is preventing vision there, but if there are any forces of Grubby, it will actually be able to see those forces. It can't actually see its observer because that observer is cloaked, but if there are forces that are out here that are not cloaked, then they will show up as a small red dot on the mini-map as well as on his actual screen. Grubby now getting this 3rd base up, still going for a very, very heavy gateway-style army. 1 Colossus now up on the field, and another Colossus coming in now, but a big drop here from TLO coming in, dealing a lot of damage to all these gateways, but it looks like seeing these forces pull back, he is just going to be picking up and moving back. These gateways have just a little bit too much help for him to snipe off too many of them before these forces of Grubby get in there. In the meantime, a small group of units being sent to check for any kind of expansions here from Grubby, and it looks like TLO is going to be setting up here for a big multi-pronged attack, as he does have his forces all placed here in a forward position. He's going to be sniping off these pylons in the corner, reducing the vision of Grubby, but Grubby right now taking advantage of this ledge, using his Colossus kept way back here to try to deal as much damage as he can from far away. In the meantime, another small group of units moving around here for TLO, checking the expansions, gonna check it up here, poke in, see if there is any gold expansion, and now the map control has shifted to being primarily in TLO's position. He is now sitting on both Xel'Naga watchtowers with this little group. He just checked for any expansions up here, knows that he is now matched on bases with his opponent, that his opponent is on 3 base. Wouldn't be surprised to see him take this command center and plop it right here at the gold expansion while he's got this map control. Vikings now out on the field, TLO feeling pretty confident about his position. Checking out the food count right now, the food count is surprisingly even, 180 food to about 180 food on both sides. And Grubby's currently gone for this very, very heavy gateway mix. Only a couple of Colossus. Checking out the unit counting station right now, we can see that only 2 Colossus are on the field, 24 Zealots, lots of Zealots on the field right now. They do have that charge ability, so TLO will have to be very, very careful with his force. He's going to have to be very, very careful with those EMPs and try to land some very nice EMPs on these death balls if he can. Nice force fields there going down by Grubby, trapping a few of TLO's units there, getting a few free kills, and it looks like Grubby is going to be expanding to this gold expansion. This is a very aggressive play here by Grubby. Grubby placing his whole army in a very, very forward position, taking this gold expansion, knowing his opponent has these Xel'Naga watchtowers. He is doing this right in the vision of TLO. TLO with a very high Viking count. He's going to be able to deal a lot of damage to those Colossi. That Colossi taking a lot of damage. EMP's going down on all the ground forces of Grubby right now. Grubby now being forced to pull back. All of his forces have no shields. He's going to have to pull back and try to engage on his own territory here. TLO looks like he's now going to be moving forward with his ghosts, trying to get those early EMPs off against those forces. Grubby now forced to just pull back, just try to save up that shield energy as best he can, but he needs to be very careful. The forces of TLO are sitting here right on the edge of Grubby's base, and Grubby's placing down all these pylons and photon cannons to try to very well establish this base. Nice EMPs going down there for TLO. takes out a lot of the shields of Grubby, but man, these Colossi are not going down fast enough. These Vikings kind of caught out of position there. Those Vikings attacking from here and taking a lot of damage from these Stalkers, and these Colossi are doing a lot of damage. Forces from the back coming in from TLO, managed to take out that gold expansion, dealing a lot of damage from the back, but it looks like Grubby is going to be able to hold this position as he is now moving in. Those Colossi were able to do massive amounts of damage. Bad Viking placement there, actually, from TLO.